Hey guys, welcome back to the BBR podcast. This is so extra special for me to invite my good friend Lauren Barber from London, England, onto the podcast. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I miss you. Denver misses you. Colorado misses you.
Oh, I miss you guys.
Yeah, but you're coming home and we're going to be able to hang for a little bit while you're working from Denver and coming back to visit.
Yep.
And so it's been about 9 months. You just refreshed my memory that you moved to London in January from Denver.
Yep. January 11th.
Mm-hmm. How has the transition been so far?
It's a huge adjustment, right? So prior to moving here, so I moved here and landed on January 11th. I got the job offer in November. So between then and January, packed up my life, moved across the country to a country I had never even visited until the day I landed. Didn't know a living soul. So the moment I landed, it's like you can take it one or two ways, right? You can look at the endless possibilities of where things can go and people you're going to meet. You can also look at it as like, oh my gosh, I'm completely scared and what am I going to do? I'm completely alone and the nearest people are thousands of miles away. So those emotions, both of those emotions go through your head, right? And my time between, I would say the first 3 months, the adjustment of living in a hotel for 3 weeks while I find a place to live, moving into an apartment, starting the new job, like I didn't have any downtime. It was, I landed here January 11th. I started to work that following Monday, which was good and bad. It was good because I got to start to meet people right away, but it was bad because I was jet lagged horribly for like 2 weeks. But once you got into the flow of it, right, and like you start to take the basic things that you do in the US, like driving your car to work or driving to the grocery store, like you take it for granted. Because here I don't have a car. It's all public transportation. And I actually have to use my legs. Like I have to walk around everywhere. I can't just walk 5 feet, get in my car, go to the grocery store, load up all the groceries in the car and go home. It's just a different way of life. And so the transitions of moving into a new place, meeting new people, that started to happen pretty organically and really well. I've made a lot of friends through work, and then now I'm making friends through their friends. So that building that network wasn't the hardest part for me. The hard part for me was getting used to just getting around, right? You're in a new country. It's all public transportation. I can't tell you how many times that I ended up in the wrong tube station because I didn't know where I was going, like east, west, north, south, whatever. But once I got that figured out, I just started to feel more calm and more at home. So the first 3 months were really difficult, just getting adjusted. And then the last 5 months, I'd say, like I've just started to really enjoy it. Like I've started to get more confident in going out and visiting new places, meeting new people, going to different parts of London, traveling around Europe. So, it's a blessing. Sometimes I have to stop myself and be like, oh my God, this is real life. And I'm not just visiting, I actually live here. And that's the part that's starting to set in now. 9 months in, it's like, okay, I'm not just a visitor, this is now my home. So it's been good though, overall.
Yeah, how was the support from the people back home during that time of transition?
During the time of transition, everyone was really supportive. There was a lot of people who were kind of on the fence of okay, is she going to make this move? And is it going to be a real term, a full-time thing? Or is she going to do this and be back? I think a few people were in denial. It was oh, okay, so she's gone, but she'll be back in a few months and it's no big deal. My mother would be one of those people. So supportive overall. There was some sadness, obviously. You build great connections, especially because I moved to Denver 4 years ago as an adult, made lifelong friends, you being one of them. And it's you miss those connections, those feelings. So you always know that you're a phone call away. Everyone can always visit. So overall supportive with a little bit of sadness.
Mm-hmm. And those girls that have visited, tell me a little bit about your Prague trip and how easy it is to jump from country to country.
Yeah, so Prague was amazing. I went with a girl here that I met through work. We've become pretty good friends here. So it takes, in the US, right, it's so big. So you could take hours just to go from state to state, and it's 2 or 3 states away. From here, my trip to Prague, the flight was cheaper than any flight I've ever taken just to get somewhere in the US. And then the accommodations is still equally like low, significantly lower than what I've paid to stay like even in a hotel in Vegas, let's say for a weekend. But the culture is just completely different. You're going to a country that's a different language. The signs are in a different language. The food's different. The locals are different. And it's like, you just get immersed into a completely different culture that's outside of anything I've seen before. So for me, it's exciting because you get to see that there's other things in this world outside of the United States. Some good, some bad. I mean, I'm still American, right? So go USA. But it's fun.
Yeah, and then you had some girls visit you from the States once you moved over there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so for my Dirty 30 in July, I had two of my best friends from Denver come over, and we went to Mykonos. And my entire purpose of my 30th birthday was not to go crazy and like party and club and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm turning 30, right? Like I'm let's keep it classy.
It's
And
time to grow up.
with that, yeah. Well, but it was fun. We went, we stayed in a beautiful resort. It was right on the beach. I've never seen water that clear in my life. And the locals could not have been more kind and more flattering. Like, I mean, compliments left and right, like all day, give it to me. I don't care. Like if I'm in a bathing suit and people are like complimenting me, like I'm loving life. And a drink's in my hand, like, and it comes right to my table. It was perfect.
And spending it with your two girlfriends that I've gotten to know through you, thank you very much,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
was nothing more than you could ask for.
At that point in time, so that would mean that I was here for 6 months in, right? You're craving to see a familiar face. Whenever you relocate on your own, having that them come over here and be able to just see them. I mean, it was emotional. Like you get sad and overwhelmed because it's like, oh my God, I haven't seen anybody that I'm close to in 6 months face to face. Like you hear voices, you get text messages, but physically seeing somebody, it's unlike anything else. And being able to talk to them and physically touch them and like hug them and be like, oh my God, like you're really here. And it's just fun. And it's fun to get to show them like where I live now and get to experience a new country with them.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So it sounds like travel is a big core value of yours.
Yeah, I think that is one of the selling points of why I took the position, right? You get to not only grow career-wise, but you get to grow in a personal way. And I think a lot of the ways that you grow personally is through travel and getting to experience different places and different cultures and immerse yourself into those things.
Yeah, is that something you look for in a partner in the future or currently?
I don't have a current partner, but yes, it definitely is. It never used to be, right, to have someone who is cultured and like well traveled, because I wasn't. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. Let's get real. So my idea of cultured is like, oh my God, you live in the Midwest or the North? What? But now it is like now that I'm doing it, I'm starting to find things in myself that I didn't realize were passions, and traveling and being able to be a part of different cultures is definitely one of them.
Yeah, so Birmingham, Alabama is home, but then Dallas came about and then Denver, or were
Mm-hmm.
there other places in between?
Nope, just Alabama, Dallas, and Denver.
Right. And there's that little touch of an accent from the South,
Just a bit.
just a bit.
Yeah.
So before you left, shoot, that would have been December of last year, you came to the live event and you asked a question of like, what do I do when dating in a new culture with all these accents? The advice I think that Jessica gave you was like, you know what, just go live it up. And they're going to
Right.
any American girl super interesting and super sexy. And what's the culture like there dating in London?
It's different. So I have been on a few dates with a few different people. Most of them were just first dates, like there was no connection as far as like chemistry goes. But the biggest difference that I'm noticing is, and maybe it's just me and maybe it's not really a culture difference, but British people are super polite. Like even if they're not interested in you, even if they're not having a good time, they're not going to actually be open about it. Like that transparency is not there at all. However, I'm on a date and it's like an hour in and I'm not feeling it. And I'm like, oh, okay, like it was so nice to meet you. I'm tired. I got to go. And the guy's like, what? It's 4 o'clock. I'm like, oh yeah, I got a real early day tomorrow. But yeah, that's not there. So you never fully understand or know where you stand in that with that person. It takes a lot longer. And it's also completely different because when you do meet people that are interested, like on my level, right? So I'm looking for something serious. I'm ready for something real. I'm not looking to date just to date to have a good time. But because I'm an American, they're not as open to be that like welcoming and like, oh, okay, like, let me get to know you on a real level, because it's like, well, how long are you here for? Fair question, right? But those are the biggest differences. In the US, I never had someone say, well, how long are you going to live here? Like, it's not a thing.
So you prefer transparency in the first couple dates?
I do. I do now. I didn't always. I didn't used to think it was super important. I do think it's important now. The older you get, right, everyone has their own agenda. Everyone has their own idea of what they want, what they're looking for. And I think there's some things, obviously, don't be super transparent to the level that you tell me about, like all the good, bad, and the ugly in the first date. Like, be self-aware. However, I do think that you should be transparent, like what you're looking for.
Yeah, when it's asked, or do you volunteer that information? Or which would you prefer now that you've seen both cultures in first and second dates?
I bring it up as a conversation topic. I don't wait for people to ask me something. If there's something I want to know, I'm going to share it about myself first, and then try to create like a safe space or a comfortable environment for someone to feel like they can equally share. If they don't, they don't. But it's not something I'm going to like pry out of them and be like, tell me. It's more
Yeah.
like, hey, this is how I feel. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, and if you have to pry it out of them, then it's not necessarily going to boost the chemistry and improve the situation at all, because then you're like forcing
Gosh, no.
everything along the way.
Right. No, no.
Yeah.
Those days are over.
Yeah, our days of forcing relationships are behind us, aren't they?
Exactly. Now it's free will. I can't hold you here anymore.
And you've taken a good long break from serious dating. I know that you said you're ready for something long-term and serious now, but for the last 2 or 3 years that I've known you, that hasn't always been the
Mm-hmm.
case. So why the shift?
So the last 2 or 3 years, so everyone has a significant event in their life that takes place, right? That either causes them to do one or two things, in my opinion. You either dive into dating more and you do the like habitual dating nonstop and you're never alone, or you do the isolate yourself completely. I'm not sure which approach is healthy. What was healthy for me was to isolate myself from the dating culture completely and to focus on me. And I've done that for it'll be 3 years in November that I've been single. And I put in the work. I started to address things like, it's easy to blame and say, well, my relationship ended because so-and-so did this and that. But when you look across the board, the common denominator in all of your relationships with different people is you. So for me, I was like, what am I attracting? What do I want to attract? And then I started to make those shifts. I started to work on myself internally, externally. I started to get my mind right. I started to build up my self-worth and self-confidence to where that when I want to attract somebody who's a 10, I need to be a 10. And you define what that is, right? Everyone's different. It's subjective. But for me, I wanted to feel like a 10. I wanted to know inside and out who I was, what I brought to the table, what I was offering, so that I had a better idea of like what's compatible for me and what I want. And I think that I've achieved that. Everyone's a work in progress. I'm never going to be 100%. But as far as like the core values and goals in life, I have that set. And I'm ready to share my life with someone.
That's awesome. Yeah, we always have peaks and valleys as adults. We're going to have our good days and our bad, but it sounds like you took personal responsibility after your last relationship ended and put it into action so that you could have a better experience in the future.
Absolutely. I didn't want to, at the time my relationship ended, I was 27, and I didn't want to continue down that pattern of dating guys that, the personality traits in the guys that I was dating were similar. But at the same time, people treat you the way that you allow them to treat you. And I was allowing people to treat me in a certain way, and I needed to figure out why. And so that's what I put the work in to do, is figure out my own self-worth, and then it just grew from there. And I think you grow up a lot too, right? I mean, the people you are in your 20s versus your 30s and all that's different. I know that I'm early into my 30s, obviously, but it's different. and your perspective on life is different. Like, I'm not looking to be the 50-year-old bachelorette like for the rest of my life with a bunch of cats. Could happen, but that's not my end goal. So in order for it to not be my end goal, I put in the work to turn things around.
And it'll only happen is if you choose not to settle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you'd rather be happy and alone than settling, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've never been happier than I am now, and I've been single for 3 years. And for me, that speaks volumes. That just shows you that happiness and joy comes from within. You can never gain that from another human being. Your happiness can't depend on another person or another thing because we're human. You're constantly going to be let down. There's constantly going to be bad times. You have to find that within you.
Mm-hmm. And oftentimes people would, I found myself doing this actually earlier this year of like, you know what, I feel stuck here in Denver. I actually feel like I need a change in my life. Maybe a new city would actually do me some good. But no matter where you go, there you are.
Mm-hmm.
When you moved to
Yep.
London, it wasn't to fix your Denver situation because you were having a great time here with friends. You during your isolation phase, you didn't quit a social life. You were actually incredibly social for as long as I've known you, and you didn't move to
Yeah.
London to fix anything, but you've gained so much because you made the choices for the right reasons.
Yeah, I didn't run from anything. And I think that that's a common thing that people do is you just want to escape, right? I didn't run from anything. I came in to be able to grow further as a person in my career and in my personal life.
How has the career improved since you moved?
Really well. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I'm kicking ass. I mean, that's what I came out here to do, right?
That's
And
what you were
and
doing
with
here
that,
too.
there's and I mean, with that, opportunities come up. The harder you work, it proves successful within a company, and that gets to be shown, especially in the office that I'm in now. It's a lot smaller of an office, so you get more bigger opportunities, bigger roles presented to you. So things are going really well. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. And what does the next 3 to 5 years hold for you, personally and professionally?
Ooh, 3 to 5 years. Personally, I would like to travel to a different country once a month. Sometimes that's not realistic, but it's just kind of a goal of mine that I want to do, even if it's just like for 3 days. I would like to continue to maintain and build a support group here, continue with building strong friendships, and maintaining those friendships and them evolving even more. I would like to continue to move up in the company, hopefully get into a management role soon. But yeah, I just want to continue to be happy and continue to like challenge myself intellectually, physically. Those are really the main goals. I don't have timelines when it comes to like dating. Like, I don't want to say like, well, I want to have a serious relationship and get married in 3 to 5 years. Like, it happens when it happens. So that's not really a goal of mine, but it's a nice to have.
Sure, absolutely. And you'll welcome somebody into your life if they're a complement to what you have going on and not to fulfill or to complete you. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't need someone to fulfill or complete me. I already feel whole as a person. If you want to add to my life, that's great. And us lift each other up along the way. Perfect.
Yep. And let's see. I'm gonna throw this out there, but next year I turn 40 and Maddie
Mm-hmm.
turns 18 and she graduates high school. And on our way to Greece, what do you say I swing through London with the kiddo and we
Yeah.
visit either on the way there or on the way back?
So what month is it?
September.
Oh my God, I didn't realize your birthday was in this month.
No, it's in
Um,
July, like yours. But Maddie's birthday's August, and then I hear that the tourism season in Greece actually slows down in September, but it's still beautiful, and that's why we're going to choose that time.
yeah, so the travel time anywhere in Europe slows down after August. So that's a good shout there. But either or. I have no plans right now for that month from this far away in a year. So whatever you guys decide, you're welcome to stay with me in my little studio. I've got an air mattress and a couch. You guys will be golden. But that would be so fun. I didn't know that you guys were doing that.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. It's something that we're pre-planning now because I do value travel. It's just hasn't been able to be a priority in the last,
Mm-hmm.
well, shoot, 17 years now because Maddie's always the top priority. But you know, we're both reaching some milestones next year, and we deserve it as a father-daughter combo.
Absolutely. Do that 40th with a bang.
Much like your 30th, you know, not where it's focused around like partying with the guys in Vegas or anything like that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not tops on my priority list anymore. Um, but really just another life experience that we haven't done together as a father-daughter. Traveling internationally has not been in the cards.
Yeah, I think that it's great. I did a trip with my dad when I was 18 years old, and we went to San Francisco and LA together because I had never been to California. And to this day, it's one of my fondest memories of my dad and I. And it was just the two of us, and we went. So I think that's a great bonding experience for both of you. And I mean, what? But there's no better place than Greece, in my opinion. So highly recommend it.
And good. It's definitely on the list, and it's something I've been mulling over for the last month or two since I turned 39. So, jumping back to your experience in the last 9 months, what kind of self-care have you realized is best for you in a transitional point in your life?
To slow down is the biggest thing that I've learned. Trying to be a rock star at work, trying to be a rock star doing this whole transition and kind of like saving face, right? Like you don't want your family to know, like, yeah, I'm kind of struggling a little bit, like, because you don't want them to worry. But sometimes it's okay to let them worry and like let them know, like, yeah, you know what? Can we have instead of one phone call a day? Can we have two? Like, I just need some like assurance right now and some comfort. Um, but just slowing down. It's okay to ask for a day off because I need to unpack. It's okay to say, hey, I need to leave early because I'm jet lagged and I haven't slept through the night in 2 weeks. Um, but just knowing when to slow down has been important for me. Also, once I did get adjusted, implementing back into the gym, got back to the gym routine, still working with a nutrition coach as well, and following those lifestyles. Like you can't make excuses. Like, okay, so you just moved countries, you've got to get back into a routine. And for me, that was important. Like I had to set a timeline and be like, all right, so by this date, once you're settled, once you're moved in, you got to get back on track.
And when you or if you deviate from those, what changes for you?
Oh my gosh, I get super like down. I get very quiet. I don't want to talk to people. I'm like extremely irritable, especially at work. Like everything annoys me. I don't want to talk to my family. I don't want to talk to anybody. And I get depressed. I just like clam up and I don't want to talk or be active at all.
Yeah,
It's
that
not a fun
sounds
experience.
that sounds awfully familiar. Um, when you were a client in the gym, we oftentimes talked about the Enneagram and how it helps with self-awareness. Is that
Mhm.
part of your conscious thought, even though we're thousands of miles away from each other?
Yeah, definitely. Being self-aware is super important and making sure that I, I mean, as a two, I guess is what it is, as a helper, you want to help everyone else around you and you want to do everything for everyone else. But then you forget about the most important person. And for me, that's been a huge focus over the past few years to make sure that I make time for myself. And it's like, yeah, you know what? Like I can meet you guys out for drinks or I can meet you for dinner. But before I do that, I've got to do X, Y, Z because I need to do it for myself. And just
Yeah,
making it part of your life.
yeah, definitely. As in, like, when you set those healthy boundaries, you come to understand that people don't get personally offended by it when you take care of you first. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, people that are people that should be in your life don't.
And those who do get personally offended by it, maybe they're not the right fit.
Right, exactly. They're just not compatible for your life. Absolutely.
Yeah, because they don't have your best interests in mind.
Right.
So,
Right. That comes back to people lifting you up, right? You need people that are going to lift you up, not bring you down.
So let's use a little example. This is actually really funny because I saw another a helper friend of mine. Kayla Coleman was on the podcast a few weeks ago, and she's one of my favorite helpers that I've met in the last 6 months. It's hilarious. But I was sick on Monday and Tuesday, right, when we were chatting over WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
And, I might have posted something on Instagram of like, ugh, sick day, and that like my dog wasn't helping, snap a picture of Chloe who's just passed out on her dog bed, right?
Yeah, she does.
And I'm like, Chloe, you're not helping, right? So Kayla, just as sweet as can be, reaches out and she says, how can I help? What can I do for you? Knowing that she's a helper and coming from my place of just vulnerability and like wanting some comfort and some help, asking her for help might not have been the best thing for her.
Right.
And if somebody kind of infiltrates that boundary, even though you offer to help, what does that make you feel? Like, you don't have to help, but you're still kind of really, really wanting to. And then somebody accepts and you're like, oh, I regret that.
I personally, I have not experienced that. So if I offer to help, it's genuine. I have never had an issue of just being like, oh, you don't feel well, I'm sorry. Like, if I can't help, it's not even that it's cold-hearted. It's like if I can't help or I don't really want to, like, I'm not going to pretend like I want to help. Like, it is a natural thing that comes to me, right, that I do want to help people. But if I offer it, it's genuine. I don't offer it if I can't actually follow through with it or if I don't want to follow through with it. Because the last thing I want to do is, because I think that people pick up on body language and your tone of voice. If you say, hey, yeah, let me help you, and they say, okay, sure, and then you help, but you don't really want to be there, it's written all over you, and especially me. I mean, we all know that my emotions are written on my face, so.
There's one thing I've always appreciated about you. You're going to say what's on your mind.
Yeah.
And the reason why I bring it up today is, just bumping into Kayla again at our weekly meeting. I thanked her for her offer for help and let her know that my awareness is that she wasn't taking care of herself over the weekend, traveling back home to see family members. Well, I cannot, in good conscience, actually ask her for help when she hasn't been taking care of herself as a helper.
Right.
It's not good for our
friendship. And I think as a helper, you have to build that ability to be able to say no and an ability to just not reach out and ask. Like, you can offer words of kindness and encouragement, but you don't always have to physically be there. You know what I mean? And that's something you have to identify within yourself and build that boundary.
Mm-hmm. And it's a hard thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it takes work, and it's something that you have to consciously work at. It's not something that you just like, oh, okay, one day it snaps. No, it's a conscious effort all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like most things.
And having people around you that understand that about you can actually make a world of difference, so that you're not feeling taken advantage of or a pushover or people pleaser or kind of like a doormat.
Yeah, and I think that that's the ideal scenario, but we live in a world where that's not always the case. You're going to be surrounded by people in all aspects of your life that may not be cognizant of those things. And that's why you have to be able to have those strong boundaries internally and feel confident in that, so that when you do come across people that aren't as aware, that it still doesn't make you falter in it, and it still doesn't like suck the life out of you and take away from what you're working for.
Amen to that. So if you have some thoughts, some wisdom to leave us with today, what would it be about travel or about spending time on your own, or something we touched on but didn't dive into, or something that we didn't get a chance to talk about? What would that be?
I think something that's so important, men and women, is I think something that's just super important as you get older is to not be scared of time alone. I have people who reach out to me all the time that are like, oh, like, how do you travel by yourself? Or do you feel alone, or aren't you lonely? I mean, I'm human. I'm not a robot. Of course I'm lonely at times. And of course it would be nice to share those memories with someone special. But it's also so like empowering And like, just to be able to say, like, I can go do this because I want to. Like, life doesn't have to wait to happen just until you have a partner or someone to do it with. Life can happen with yourself at any given time. And that's why I chose to do what I did. And that's why I continue to choose to travel and continue to make experiences. Even though that no one right now is sharing it with me, but I'm doing it for myself. And it's okay to have that selfish time in life, if that's what you want to call it. I don't feel like it's selfish. I feel like it's what's needed in order for me to be the best person I can be. And I think you gain so much when you just shut everything off and be alone with yourself and spend time with yourself and get to know you. Because if you don't love yourself and you don't feel like the best you, then why would you expect anyone else to? And if your goal is, I think as human beings, we all want to have someone to share life with. And in order to do that and to do it well, I think you need to not be afraid to be alone.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest fears holding us back is maybe we stay in a relationship we shouldn't be in, or we get into a relationship we know is not good for us because of that fear of being alone.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I did it for years when I was younger. Like, I stayed in relationships that weren't working, but it's like, okay, well, if I end this relationship or this is good enough, like I could get by with this for the rest of my life. Like, yeah, that, that's not great, but, whatever. But it's just a fear, right? It's an insecurity. And you also like compare yourself to other people in their positions, right, in their life. Like, oh, well, so-and-so that I grew up with for 20 years is now married with children, and here I am. But like, who cares? Like, your path is your path. Like, the things that I'm doing and get fulfillment in life are different than those people that chose that type of path. And both are equally great.
Mm-hmm. And one of those things that you said before you left for London is, I'm 29. If not now, then when? I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
unattached. I don't have children, and I'm free to make the choices I want to make for me. And I've always wanted to live somewhere else. So boom, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it is the time of life. And it wasn't even just about my age. It was about my situation, my circumstances. Live on my own. I don't have a house. I'm not tied financially to the country, is meaning like I don't have to like keep up with a mortgage, don't have children, no relationship. Like, it was the perfect time to get out of my comfort zone and kind of shake things up. And I've done that. And it's been awesome. I mean, I really can't express like how awesome it's been. Like, I feel alive, and I feel like just energized.
Mm-hmm. Good for you. And
Yeah.
coming back to that season in your life of isolating yourself from a relationship, as long as I've known you for 2 of those 3 years, just about somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen you closed off to new experiences or new opportunities. That wasn't so much about what your isolation was. It was really more about focusing on you, right?
Yeah. So out of those two, the first year, I'd say I was isolated from everything. I mean, I was extremely depressed. I was going through some things. I was handling those emotions not in the right way. I was partying too much. I was eating too much. I was not taking care of myself in any shape, form, or fashion. And I was just going into a very dark hole. And then it was like that second year came around. And then I was like, you know what? Screw this. Like, I can get myself out of this. And it took a long time to get where I wanted to be mentally and physically and to be healthy again. But during that time, I didn't close myself off to other people. I was never fully, for a while, wasn't fully open to like dating. Like, I was still open to meeting new people. I just wasn't open to meeting someone who's on a romantic level. And that turn didn't start until probably within the past year, that I've been like, okay, like if I meet somebody, like it's okay to flirt. It's okay to be open to like receiving flirts back. Because before that, it was just like, don't look at me, don't touch me, don't be attracted to me in any way. Like, I don't want anything to do with you. and that's definitely changed over the past year. I'm open to that now. But when it comes to being closed off, when I say closed off, I closed off and came to myself to work on myself. But I maintained friendships and work relationships, and obviously with my family. Those didn't go away.
Yeah, because that would be worse for you than anything else.
Yeah, you don't want to remove your support system. That's so important in life, to have people around you to lift you up and to bring you back to the ground when you start to get stuck in your head. like I have a problem with. Like I tell myself all the time, like if I start trailing off in this weird path, I'm like, get out of your head. Like literally, I'll say it out loud, like get out of your head, just stop. And having a support system to just bring you centered and help you get back in alignment and focus is really important. Whether that's your friends, your family, your colleagues, you have an actual support group or people that are just like-minded, a community of some kind is just there to support you. I mean, you and I had that for months when I was training with you. It's like 3 days a week in the morning, like talk things out, whether it's relevant or not, like it's still helpful, right? And then you start the day like feeling a little bit more balanced.
Yeah, no doubt that we are kind of in a holistic way, kind of approaching mental health through fitness and nutrition. And that was always the program designed for Fit Life Champions.
Absolutely. Yeah, and for me, that was what I needed. I needed to physically feel strong, and I needed to feel empowered in that way. But internally, I needed to make adjustments that would help with just like mental health, and nutrition plays a huge part in that. Like what you put into your body and the way that your chemicals work in your brain are completely aligned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about that for sure. Well, I know that your time is valuable and you're still at work, kind of closing out your day. So thank you so very much, Lauren. And I am setting aside some time this weekend to come hang out with you.
Yay! Well, thank you so much for having me, Dave. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you got the chance to connect with us.
Yeah, of course. Well, I will see you soon, and I hope you have a good rest of the day.
Thanks.